So this is it's called a Phosphate LR, which means low range. So it's the phosphate test. And so we're going to turn this on. It just takes a little bit to turn on. And the preparation does not take very long. I've already had these test tubes cleaned and rinsed with tap water and with deionized water. So the tap water multiple times, then I use the DI water to make them nice and clean. Before we actually use these, I'm going to take some of my lake sample that we just took here, and I'm going to put a little bit in each one, kind of to rinse it, just to make sure if there's anything else that was a contaminant, it's out of there. All right, and now this is pretty clean too. We want to put 10 milliliters of the sample in each one. You could just pour from there into here, but that's kind of a clunky thing to pour. So I'm going to use this, and you want to get 10 milliliters as precisely as you can. So I'm going to use this. There's no air bubbles. So I'm going to put in 10 mils, and it should be right about at that line. And the reason why I want to have 2 of these is because I have to tell the device, and we have something called a blank, and something is our test sample. All right. So let's just say that this is our blank, and this is going to be our test sample of the lake. So both of them have lake water in it. What this test does with the phosphate is these 2 pills, one's an acid and the other one is a molybdenum compound. And it basically reacts with phosphate. The combination of these 2 things will react with the phosphate in this one, and it will start to turn it blue. And so if I start to put these in, I'm going to put number 1 in first. And I'm going to use this device just to crush it. And I like preparing these things ahead of time, because once you get these all ready, this device is going to tell us pretty quickly what to do. Do this, this, this. It just goes from one step to the next pretty fast. It eventually dissolves completely, but I want to break it up as much as I can. And especially with something that is still on the cool side, because we just picked it up recently. It takes longer for something to actually dissolve. All right, so let me get number 2. This is the smaller one. The labeling on this is not the best. And because this is so early in the year, I don't expect that we're going to get very much phosphate detected. So when we were doing this in the library a month or more ago, I actually added phosphate.
I remember. Yeah.
That's right. That was your test. And just to make it
more interesting.
Yeah. Well, just to make sure it also worked.
It's true.
Yeah, that is true. Right.
So the reason why the 10 milliliter was so important is because the amount of chemical in these 2 pills and the amount of water is measuring a very specific number of like grams per liter.
Okay.
But this is
designed for that level.
right. All right, well, since I've been holding on to this and holding on to the other one, my fingerprints are all over it.
Uh-huh.
So the photometer here, it sends in very specific colors or nanometers of light. And what we want to tell it initially, put this over here. We want to tell it initially that plain water, or plain lake water, like this blank, is, we're sending in like an orange colored of light. And we want the machine to say that the plain lake water, if it's 100% coming in, it's 100% coming out in this one. But in this sample where it's reacting with the phosphate, we want it to pick up the reaction with the phosphate. So if 100% of orange light comes in, how much is being absorbed by this solution? So in order to clean this up, so this is a...
Take all your fingerprints off.
Right, and this, I bought this at
Microfiber.
Home Depot. It's right, it's a microfiber, and it's lint-free, and it's soft.
Oops.
So I've got these.
Right.
That's so wise. I didn't think about the fingerprint impact on light
I know.
penetration.
Well,
And-
yeah, 'cause you're putting it directly in there to measure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, so now we're gonna go back to starting the device. So I guess it shut off on its own. And now we're gonna select the test, and we're gonna scroll down to phosphate LR, and I'm gonna label this test. See, I've got all the other lakes listed here. So here's Loch Lomond, and I could put in user, but I guess I won't do that right now. You could put in the name of the person. You could put other notes in here as well. And now I'm going to tell it I want to do the blank. Oh, I made a mistake.
You gotta put
I'm
it in
sorry.
there, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So I got this diamond, and here's the arrow. Okay. Made a mistake there. Sorry. Blank failed. So now let's try it.
Smart.
So they get the diamond and that arrow. So then it notices that it's always the same position on that test tube. Okay, so now that's done. It took very, very quick. I know this is clean. By the way, these black tops are trying to prevent light from the kitchen or whatever,
Sure.
or wherever you're taking. So I'm going to put this in, and they cover all around here, preventing excess light. And now click measure, and boom, 10
And that
minutes,
takes
it
a
will
while.
we'll take it. And we'll get the value.
Cool.
So it's a very simple little thing.
So now we have to do this each time too then?
Yes.
Okay.
And
With each of your different
So-
things.
With our samples.
Yeah.
so there is another little complication to this. Well, actually, there's at least two more complications to this particular test. One of them is this is measuring phosphate. And a lot of the measurements that the county does and the state are phosphorus. So phosphorus is when they say that, it's something called orthophosphate. So trying to make a conversion between the factors, this is one of the things that Jim Bland and I were talking about yesterday. Like, well, what's the ratio? And it's about, like, I think this test may be 3 times higher than the actual amount of the phosphate, the orthophosphate test. So there's this number, this ratio, so we're trying to work on right now. So just so when people are, it's very easy for people to think phosphorus and phosphate are the same thing, and they're not. And this is measuring phosphate, and we may have to make a conversion to phosphorus.
Okay.
And just to recap what you all did, you used those 2 tablets, very carefully measured 1 and 2. One's larger than the other, but you have to have them both.
Mm-hmm.
And then you captured the water with the syringe to clean it out, and then you captured 10 milliliters to put into the samples
Into each one.
and to the test,
Blank.
and then inserted them into the machine.
And the
got
machine tells you what to do.
in 10 minutes. It's
And
beautiful.
this
Wow.
machine does about 30 different tests.
Oh.
So inside the equipment, the box that we have, there's other tests if you really wanted to do. But this is the big
Like
So is
copper and
this
nitrate.
step is recommended to do it inside? I mean, do you do it down by the lake with everything else when
You
we're
could.
down there?
You
And
could.
the
I
weather
mean,
and stuff?
But then you
Yeah,
well,
all this
you'd have to
stuff.
have fresh water.
But
Well, you bring it with you, but
you know, you could bring this with you, and you could get the results. Good. You just have to make sure this is charged up. So there's
Might as well
a
do it
cable
at
to
home.
charge it.
Yeah.
But
it'd be easier to do it
think?
like you're doing it here.
Right.
Yeah.